Hi guys, and welcome to episode 32 of the Your Progress is Our Passion podcast. We've got two firsts today. The first time I'm being greeted with three guests. We've had two before on one of the early episodes with Jack and Sarah, who coincidentally are both competing in the Commonwealth Games this weekend. Not that that's a big deal or anything. But this is the first time we've got three guests on the show, and it's also the first time that the guests are my clients, both ex and current. We've got one thing in common, well, a few things in common, but one thing in common in particular that we're going to talk about today, which is that 5 weeks tomorrow, I believe it is at the time of recording, we will be running 8 hours through the night, starting at midnight, finishing at 8 in the morning, and then hopefully going back to the hotel for a breakfast that they will let us in for while we're covered in mud at Europe's Toughest Mudder. So basically I'm just going to have a chat with these guys today. We've got over on, I don't know which way, on probably the right of the screen, we've got the other Dave Edge. To his right we have Chris Blundell. To my left we have Phil Holt, and then we've got me. And basically we're just going to have a chat about what it was that got us into doing Tough Mudders, what the event's all about, and why we're doing it. So I'm going to hand over to this lot. So, right, where to start? I'm going to do this in no particular order. This isn't favouritism. I'm going to go that way to this way and then back around. It's the only way. So you never get to be first. But we save the best till middle.
There you go.
So I guess the first question is, give us a little bit of the background on what made you decide to do your first Tough Mudder. So we'll start with Dave.
Well, I started training with you, I think, just a few weeks before. I think you did your first kind of Tough Mudder with Phil. I think Chris did it as well, and was insanely jealous. And I didn't like it, and all you were training for, and I'm like, we're drawn. So as soon as word came out that we were going on it again, then I just jumped it. It kind of coincided with like kind of a tricky period in my life, where I just needed a bit of a boost, a bit of something to aim for, a little bit of fun, and I think it did the trick. And one of the best things I think I've done certainly was do the last one in September, and now it's escalated. And
that's your fault.
We'll get to. We'll have to come back to that in a minute. That'll be the question of why the hell we were doing Europe's Toughest. Chris, you did one a year before the rest of us.
I did.
What was it that got you into that?
I wanted to do one before I hit 40.
Okay.
Which I did, and got the buzz then.
Yeah.
And then we found out you guys were doing it the year after. So, did that one. Last year's a bit of a tricky time in my life, so I needed some kind of focus. I was off work for quite a while. I wanted to focus on doing something to keep my mind occupied for what I was going through. And that was the training. And then, it's escalated into our madness in 5 weeks.
God, it's so close.
It is.
Phil, if you don't say last year was a tricky time in your life, you'd have officially had one out at this point. What was it that made you do the first one?
I've actually done a few races. One obstacle race called Hell Runner, probably about 10 years ago now, but it was nothing like Tough Mudder. It was mainly just running through woods and up hills and stuff. Then, obviously, not last year but the year before when we did our first one, I've been training with you for probably 6-8 months, and I think it actually came out as a bit of a joke. Someone had mentioned it in the gym that we should do it, and then it just sort of escalated from there. And I just found it was a really good test of my fitness, because I'd come from being very unfit when I first started training with you to then entering Tough Mudder, and it sort of see where I got to. And it was more mainly about just getting through it that year, the first year. And we got through it really well, and I absolutely loved it. Just getting covered in mud, I just felt like a big kid again. And then last year, we booked on straight away, and last year was just more a progression on that. And I just love it, and that's why I've signed up again for this year, and also Europe's Toughest Mudder. So
yeah, I mean, I think for me, when the first year came round, I always said I would never do one. In fact, I've been asked by one of my friends to do the Tough Mudder, and my actual answer was, I'm not getting electrocuted for anybody. Turns out I just wasn't getting electrocuted for him. Sorry, Stu. He doesn't watch, so it's fine. I can say what I want about him. Sorry, Stu. But then Charlotte and Kev came along and they were doing it. just the two of them. And at that point I was like, basically that was around about the time that the CoFitties had started and we were beginning to build a bit of team spirit and I thought, you know what, yeah, maybe I wouldn't do this for me, but I could do that for them. And that's just like kind of it's just one of my traits, I guess. But I just remember on our first one I was dreading it all the way up to it. I thought Arctic Enema was going to be the worst thing in the world. I thought electroshock therapy was going to be the second worst thing in the world. I was wrong. Electroshock therapy was the worst thing in the world, and Arctic Enema was amazing. But I just remember like the first few miles, and you turning around to me and saying, "So we're doing this again next year." And I was like, "Yeah, Phil, like Phil, we're 5 minutes in. Let's give it a little bit of time." But then, about 2 minutes later, we got on Block Ness Monster, and it was the first water obstacle, and as soon as I came out of that water, I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. It woke something in me that I didn't know was there at all. Wow, I'm getting emotional. That's weird. I did not expect that. And then in terms of, well, we did both say that we're going to book on it again next year, and the Monday, that was on the Sunday, by the Monday, I think all of us have booked on it except for Dave because we had the early access code from having done it, and you had to wait like 2 weeks until you booked into yours. Okay, so I'm going to say from the one that we did last year where all of us were together, does anyone have any particular highlights? I know which one I'll mention if you guys don't, but I want to see what you guys think.
I think my highlight of last year's one was the climbing up the hill of mud, was it?
Oh yeah.
We had to come down,
very deep mud.
Yeah, very deep mud indeed, and you couldn't come down it in a manly way. Most of it sliding on my bum for the majority of it.
That's super manly.
And that was hilarious. That was probably my highlight, and just the team spirit of us all.
Yeah.
No one was left behind.
No.
Which was fantastic.
And everyone was in bright pink.
Exactly.
Phil?
Well, I'll mention it then.
If you're going to say the one I think you are, I want a fun reenactment.
Was it the Kiss and Mud? Is that what it's called?
I think so. Oh, the Quagmire one, I think, Quagmire. Yeah. It's not quite Kiss and Mud, it's the one where you go to your chest, basically. Yeah. Or if you were Katie, to your head.
Well, basically, me and Dave Edge, had just been, well, his face all the way around was like a little kid, and he was just loving it. And then we got to this one, tons of mud, really deep, really sticky, and for some reason I just thought, yeah, I'll just jump in it. Like the worst place possible. So I did. And then Dave jumps in after me, saying he's going to come and save me. Which then I just hilariously got the giggles, and every time I looked at his face, which I'm still only doing now, I just couldn't stop laughing, and people were trying to help us out. Because we were laughing so much, we had no energy. And they were just moaning that we weren't doing anything, that we were just lying there stuck.
I remember walking past you guys, because you literally belly flopped straight onto the mud. Didn't even walk through any of it. Dave had about 2 steps, and then I walked probably till I was about 1.5 feet in front of you guys before I came up to my hips, and then I had to fall forward. And there was a guy from another team, well, 2 guys from another team trying to help me out, and because all I could hear behind me was you two just giggling your heads off, I started laughing. And this person on the team's like, I can't help the other team. I'm like, I can't help you out if you don't stop laughing. I'm like, I can't stop laughing until then. And I think, Dave, how far into the course was it before you were covered from head to toe in mud?
I think it took about 30 seconds, I think, before
you went body surfing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that was one of my highlights, was the start of it. And I think beforehand, it kind of changed my perspective on how I look at everything. Because before I kind of waited for fun to happen around me and kind of get involved with it. As soon as I started running, and something just clicked in my head, and I thought, I'm just going to get covered.
I was exactly the same the year before, because I felt quite apprehensive before I started it. As soon as it started,
yeah, exactly the same. Have you got any particular favourite bits from the day other than that, or does that?
the end of it with the beer was nice.
Hey, it's IPA this year. It's brewed on this year.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a low light. Well, it's a highlight.
Go on.
The lecture shock therapy.
Oh,
It's quite funny looking back at it, but the first year I did it, I thought, it's not too bad this, it made quite a sound, but last year, I just heard this massive bang, and I went into and just hit the floor, and then I tried to get up again, and it just got me, so I ended up just crawling through it.
That was horrible, if I'm yeah.
To finish with it.
I really, really hope that in toughest, because we've got to do laps, I hope there's not more than one lap with electrocution on it, which there probably will be.
It will be, yeah.
Because I like the fact that it's at the very end, I can just about cope with, because it's the last thing, and then after that I get to have my beer and I get to go home. But if it's in the middle, like the one where you've got to go and fish out your wristband, so you have the privilege of doing another lap, I'll just think, I'm doing lap one again. Dave's done 45 miles, yeah, because all I've done is lap one. What you said then actually about how it before that fun had always happened, you'd always waited for fun to happen, and that like you learned that you can actually make the fun happen. Is there anything else that kind of doing Tough Mudder has taught you?
I think it's just, it was quite easy before to kind of think, oh, there's no one really to hang out with, no one's got the same issues as you, no one's got the same interests as you know. And it's like, I think it taught me that you can pretty much put yourself in any situation with a kind of group of people who all have different lives, all have different things, and just enjoy yourself for that split second. And you can and when you're doing that thing, whatever it is, it could be Tough Mudder, it could be a little run you're going on, it could be meeting your friends down the pub, but if you just enjoy that moment, and then I think that just, you're not thinking about the troubles in your life, you're not thinking about the bills you've got to pay, whether you've upset anyone, whether you're stressed at work. For that moment, you're just messing about. And you're suddenly, in an instant, 12 years old again, and
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jumping into puddles with fully grown men.
And fully grown women. Alright, cool. I'll ask you guys the same question in a sec, but I want it, while Dave's talking about being silly, you mentioned something to me a few weeks back that for toughest, your plan is to take that a little bit more seriously. Is that still the plan?
I think it's like when you go on your night out and you're going to say, I'm only having a couple, I'm going to be sensible. And then you have your first drink, and then 12 hours later you're in a hedge. What's gone on? I think I'm in that kind of situation at the minute. I think it depends.
When you hit that mud.
Yeah.
First taste of mud.
Yeah, because I think what you said to me at the gym the other week was, it was when we went for coffee, it was like, be serious for a toughest mudder, but then next September when we do Tough Mudder again, it's just a complete all-out piss about. But I will wait and see what happens on May the 12th. So Chris, is there anything that doing a Tough Mudder has taught you?
Pretty much what Dave said. It's living that moment. It's it's like taking myself away from the problems I had. It was something. It was my focus was to get fit, to do this, to get around the course more than anything. But it was also having guys around us or people around us who may have the same issues as you, and how we all work as a team just to get around that course, to help everyone. To
get my 115 kilo arse over a bloody pyramid scheme.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like Kev, if you're listening, we still need you on our team for those dips. Your legs get us over pyramid scheme. What about you, Phil?
I can just back up what these two guys have said, really, but it's not just our team, it's just embracing everyone that's there. There's people like, I don't usually, probably not socially meet new people that often and stuff, but when you're there, it just seems to throw everything out the window, and everyone just helps each other, and it's just that camaraderie of everyone going through it together, because it's like everyone's got that common goal of getting through it, and it is just that relaxed feeling, and it puts a smile on my face when I think about it afterwards, and it sets me a goal for next year as well. where it'll just, everything keeps maintaining, and because I know I want to do it, it keeps me focused on it. So whereas sometimes you set yourself a goal, and because you don't enjoy it that much, you're not focused on it as much. Whereas this, it sort of makes you want to train because you want to do it and you want to do it well. So, and even though this is more of a serious one, I'm still going to have fun. But it's just testing the limits, and it's testing it somewhere where I want to test it, rather than somewhere where it's something doing you're not too interested in. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you said about the camaraderie, then do you remember Tony on the first year?
Teamwork.
We called him Teamwork Tony, and you guys didn't run with Tony, obviously, but Tony. Don't get me wrong, I'm not putting him down in the slightest. However, we could not move on for an obstacle until Tony had made his quota of helping other people through. And yeah, I'm all for helping the other teams because you get so much help from other people, from other teams. There is so much camaraderie. But we'd been over an obstacle for about 5 minutes, and like Tony would have probably stayed there until the last wave came through, just helping people over. And we were all set to. In fact, I've got a T-shirt somewhere with Teamwork Tony written on it, but because he didn't make it to the second year, but that makes it sound like he didn't make it. He is still alive. He was refurbishing his house. I'll get in touch with him to try and get him back for year 3. But yeah, for me, the thing I learned, one is that Arctic Enema is loads of fun. Like I thought I would hate it. 2. I'm a lot more capable of a lot of things than I thought, in terms of I didn't do any training for the first one or the second one. I've done loads for this one, and that's not an exaggeration. I did run number 50 today, so I've got 4 left to do in my 54. And because it did teach me that you can get through a tough mudder with practically no training if you don't mind your hamstrings hurting for like weeks afterwards. But yeah, it did teach me what, like, not to put limits on both myself and anyone else in the team, really, because like everyone on the day, particularly on that first one, overcame something to be there. Like Charlotte overcame about 10 things. Like she was like claustrophobic, afraid of water, afraid of heights, afraid of cardio, and it was just like that. Like I suppose I was just endlessly proud of her on that day. Okay, is there anyone else want to take this before I ask the following question? I can't think. Right, the following question, and I reckon Dave's the real answer to this. Why? So I'll come to Dave last. Why on earth not just Tough Mudder, and why Europe's toughest mudder?
Dave's fault. I think we've been talking about it and sort of mentioned it because Tough Mudder was that good, and we're all getting fitter and stronger, and it was just sort of, let's have a talk about it. And then I think Dave just went ahead and booked it, and then it was just like, well, we've got to book it now, so we went ahead and booked it. But I am so looking forward to it. I mean, this year I've been training so hard, and maybe not running enough, but my general fitness from this time last year, because I remember I was saying to these guys earlier, I went out for a run on the beach in the summer, nice day, and I was struggling to get to a mile. And I hadn't run before that year, but this year I went out for my first run and did 5 miles fairly comfortably, quite hilly track and stuff. So I feel like I focused a lot on the obstacles, but I just want to push my body to its limits. I want to try and do it. I'm even thinking about next year as well now already. And I just want to try and do this as well as possible this year, and then see where I go from there, basically. It's just every year, since I've started training with you, I'm just evolving and just getting better and better, and that's it, really.
Chris?
Yeah, pretty much what Phil said, really. It's a pinnacle of my training for this year. When I thought it was Europe's toughest mud, I thought it was somewhere like, Madrid, Barcelona, not the Midlands. Hugely disappointed on that.
I'm at least glad we didn't book the Scotland one.
Well, yes, that is very true. But it's another challenge.
Yeah.
Another tick on the old getting things done before I get to that middle age year, 50. Yeah. But it's just, as Phil said, it's pushing my body now to get to that next level of fitness, which I'm nearly there. But yeah.
I think you're ahead of the rest of us.
We shall see.
And Mr. Edge, given the fact that you were the first person to sign on the dotted line, just why?
I think I just got carried away. I think because I was still picking mud out my ears when I booked it. And I was looking more to think when the next one was and was there anything else we could do. And then Europe's Toughest came up and I thought, I'm going to do that. And I did it without even asking anybody.
Yeah.
But knowing that at least two of you wouldn't go, well, I'm not doing that. They just have to do it anyway. Yeah. And luckily enough, the plan worked and all three of you joined in.
Yeah. My why was simply I just put on, I was like, I'm not doing that for anybody. And I think you guys have now figured out how I work. And I just all I wrote on the forum was, I'm so glad that you guys haven't asked me to do this. And Dave's reply was, we don't need to. 5 minutes later, the ticket was bought. Never spent like 130 quid or whatever it is. I've never spent that much money that quick in my life. And I think I've spent every day since thinking, what have I done? Yeah. But my way of looking at it, it's only 8 hours. It took us 5.5 hours to do the first one. It's only two, how's my maths? It was only 2.5 hours more. I know we want to cover more distance in that.
A lot.
Yeah, it took us 5.5 hours to do 11 miles and you guys want to do 30. Nice. But yeah, I just thought, again, it's another thing I can do with my team. It's another opportunity to kind of push myself to that limit, and also the fact that I know I'm not going to push myself to that type of level alone. And so if I can do it to kind of help you guys or to be a part of what we're doing, then that makes it all the better. So a little bit after we booked, I decided that I was going to try and use this as a fundraiser for CALM, the Campaign Against Living Miserably, and I preemptively, like when Dave said he didn't ask anybody first, I kind of did the same, and so I didn't assume that you guys were going to jump on board with the fundraising, hence why the address for the page is Dave Does It ETM and not DCPD do ETM. But as soon as I mentioned it, all three of you were like, yeah, I'm on board with the fundraising for that. So what I'd like to know is, obviously you guys both mentioned difficulties in life last year. We all know, the podcast entirely knows that I had my fair share of difficulties in my life last year. Phil breezed through last year well, but maybe not, but what is it that makes this particular charity kind of so important to you? I'll let any of you start on this.
I can go. I mean, I sort of hide it sometimes. I'm out in the front sometimes, look like everything's going fine, and I sort of make out to everyone that I am alright, but I have gone through a few issues, and I'd say since I've started training, this is what's helped me the most. It's progressed me more than anything. I wouldn't be doing any stuff like this with other people, and they'll just feel like this whole event, sort of Tough Mudder, has embraced what has happened to me over the last 2 to 3 years. So this charity we're raising for, Tough Mudder has helped me get out of dark places, whereas so that is what the charity is doing really. So I think it's sort of like a circle, and so I think it's great that we're raising it for them as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, most definitely. I totally agree. I've been there with issues. I'm still having issues now, and I've taken certain things from society, so I want to give something back. I feel it's my duty to. They've helped me, as most people in this room have helped me. I want to give something back now, and this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah, awesome. Dave?
For me, I think it's, I feel I could have gone the other way. I could have stayed at home, I could have felt that I could have just not done anything, not done any of this, and continue to have real issues. And I know a lot of people are out there who could be at that same point where they could go very reclusive, or they could, and just for us, and just doing this and the podcast and raising awareness, it's just, there is ways that you can, it's not just the simple go to your doctors, go to that, does that work? Well, no, it's not worked that much, and then that's it, you're back to square one.
Yeah.
I think it's just to highlight that there is other ways that you can get yourself out, enjoying yourself, and it's the same. I think the thing that I've taken away is don't let You know, don't be waiting for the fun to come to you. Just whatever you're doing, just have it. Just make the most. If you need to go outside and jump in a puddle and look stupid for 5 minutes, then
At least put some clothes on first.
just yeah. Sorry, Merseyside Police.
I mean, obviously it was me that picked the charity, and it's super important to me and has been. I first worked with them when I was 20. I was in a band at the time, and they were actually, I think, Liverpool based at the time, and they only just started up, and we were doing charity nights. Basically, their expressions at the time, I think, was being strong isn't always being being silent isn't being strong. So they wanted people to kind of speak out, and obviously in my line, well, first off, not in my line of work, but in my own personal life, I've attempted suicide 2 times. I'm closest to one of their demographics as of anyone I know, and it was always, when I was working with them at 20, it was suicide was the biggest killer of men between the ages of 18 and 30, and I got to 30 and I'm like, yes, I survived, I got past the critical zone. It is now the biggest killer of men between the ages of 18 and 45. Biggest preventable cause of death of men between 18 and 45 as well in the UK, and to me that's just a staggering statistic. And then when we converted to my work, despite the fact that I've got like 3 awesome blokes with me right now that are all happy to talk about their mental health, most of my work is with women because they're more ready to talk about these things, and I get to help women with anxiety and depression a hell of a lot more than men. Men tend to go down the isolation route. They tend to believe they'll isolate themselves, but then believe that there is nothing else out there, and people like Calm are there to kind of provide, and I think it's a 365-day-a-year now service for men where they can actually phone up and speak to somebody. The helpline is there all through the year. So for me, if I knew a man that was heading down that road, I'd want to speak to them and I'd want to try and help them, but these guys are there if they want to speak to someone that's impartial. And I think that's just a massively invaluable service. And it's not a kind of, we're not bothered about women out there, but women are seeking the help a lot easier, a lot more frequently than what men are. And I think there's a certain degree of education there, and there's also certain stereotypes around men that still need breaking down in order to help with that stigma. And I just think anything that charity can impact that a hell of a lot more than I can as an individual. So it's just, in my eyes, just a great thing to support. I think that's it. Has anyone got anything else that they want to add about any of this?
No,
I think that's all my questions.
Bring on Europe's toughest mudder.
Indeed.
Bring on Europe's toughest mudder. One more thing. Which if any, or all or any of you are considering doing Worlds at some point?
Yep.
Oh yes, most definitely.
So let me guess, you're not going to bother asking me because
No, you was there.
I just wanted to go back to Vegas because that way I'll have a pit crew.
Party.
A loner will come and be my pit crew if I go to Vegas. Atlanta, I don't know if you.
No, I was looking at Atlanta thinking, no, it sounded a lot more exciting when it was in Vegas because they made a holiday out of it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if they're going to change it each year. I don't know if that's going to be a thing.
Is your plan still 2020?
2020, yeah.
Well, I suppose that kind of puts the rest of us on the time frame, really, doesn't it?
Well, I was going to look at I don't know how much the season pass is, because I know...
Does the season pass include Worlds?
You can get one, I'm sure,
Yeah, I think
with
you can.
Worlds. And because the Worlds is like $400 and something on its own, and I think someone got one for £600, which, I don't know if you get Europe's, I don't know how it works, but I'd have to look into it.
So for anyone on the podcast listening who's never happened to, just out of curiosity, look at what World's toughest mudder is, Europe's is 8 hours long, World's is a full 24 hours straight. As many laps to the course as you can do. Involves jumping off some very high platforms into big pits of water and doing zip lines and a few other things that aren't on some of the other ones. And and up until last year was in the Nevada desert, which is kind of part of the appeal.
You still get a beer at the end?
I hope so.
I think you probably get an after party at the end of that.
Just want a trough lined up.
I think if we do that, we are planning one hell of a celebration at the end of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
most definitely.
It'll be like, okay, so here's the money we need for the trip, and here's the separate money we need for the celebration afterwards.
More.
Yeah, the entry fee for Tough Mud is $400, but then all the beer and stuff we're going to need afterwards, plus the probably intravenous, what are they called, electrolytes. Like after that, they do that in Vegas. A nurse, a registered nurse, will come to the pool, give you an IV by the side of the pool, and get rid of your hangover. I don't endorse getting hangovers. Totally do. Right, cool. Well, thank you guys for joining me. It's been almost as much as a laugh as actually doing the actual Tough Mudder. So yeah, basically, if you want to help us help Calm, which in turn means helping men across the UK find an ability to speak out, to have their voice, to talk out about their depression, to have a helpline and a load of resources in which they can access, then you can access our fundraising page, which is at justgiving.com/DaveDoesETM. So ETM is in Europe's Toughest Mudder. On the Facebook version and the YouTube version, I will put that link in a clickable form, and so you can actually use it. I don't think you can have a clickable link in YouTube, but I'll put that link there so you can go straight to it. We've got a target on there of I think £1,000. I would love to hit that target. I would love to smash that target completely out the water. As you guys know, I don't ask for things very often, and I definitely don't ask for them. Like I never go around asking for you guys to come and use my business, but I will ask you to donate to a charity because I just think that's a much more worthy cause. So thanks again for watching. Your progress is our passion.